There's life on Earth. That's the subject of an interesting book by the physicist Paul Davies. Wrote a book called The Goldilocks Enigma quite recently. The Goldilocks Enigma, remember the story of Goldilocks? You know, she comes to the house of the three bears. They're out in the forest picking mushrooms or whatever they do, and waiting for the porridge to cool down. She goes in there and she eats up Daddy's, that's too hot. Mummy's is too cold. Baby bear's porridge, that's just right. And she goes upstairs and she's tired, and there's the beds. Oh, there's the chairs first, I missed that. Then she goes up to, there's the beds, and Dad's bed's too hard, Mum's bed's too soft. Baby bear's bed is just right. She falls to sleep. Well, Paul Davies asks, why is it that this universe is just right for life in this piddly little planet called Earth in the middle of nowhere? How is it that the conditions are just right for life? And had they been an incy bit different at some stage along the way, there could be no life at all. We're not even just talking human life, we're talking any kind of organic life. Why is there life in this universe? Why is it that the moon, however far away, 400,000 kilometres or so, happens to keep the orbit that it does, knowing that if it got any closer to the Earth, the tides would get so big that we'd all be flooded and all the continents would be covered with water every high tide? Or if it was further away, not sure what would happen to gravity, but would probably all collapse under the weight of our own bodies. What about the sun? If we were any closer to the sun, we know we'd fry. Apparently, if the Earth's crust were just 10 feet thicker, life on Earth would be absolutely impossible. Why is there such mathematical regularity to the laws of physics in the universe? Apparently, the laws of physics, mathematical laws of physics, are so uniform and so, in fact, if you like, can be reduced to only a few particular laws. They can all be written on a single sheet of paper. And they're basically the laws that govern the entire material universe. It's quite mind-boggling. Have you ever wondered about all of that? Have you ever wondered about how big a miracle you are? Did some digging around once, found out that the average sperm count on an ejaculation is about 300 million or so. If it's only 100 million sperm, basically it's an infertile setup. So you need about 300 million sperm for an ejaculation for it to be at all hopeful of finalising in conception. But even then, it's not a single sperm who has to reach the egg, but about 1,000 sperm who have to reach the egg in order to somehow break down its thick outer layers, and by their interaction upon the egg, the outer layers sort of thin enough so that in the end only one sperm does in fact penetrate the outer layer of the egg and enter and fertilise that ovum. 300 million, then 1,000, and then one. And had that sperm been the next one along, you wouldn't be here today. You would be somebody else. You wouldn't exist. Somebody else would be sitting here, if in fact they were sitting here. The mind boggles. Doesn't that make you wonder? And that was just that once. What if that had been a night Mum had said, I've got a headache? What if that had been a night when there'd been a phone call and they had to go out for something? You wouldn't be here. And that just happened for you. But the same had to happen for your own parents and for their parents. And everything had to work so that you existed at this time and place. The mind absolutely boggles. And the person you are, as a result of that particular sperm and that particular month's ovum, is utterly unique, utterly unrepeatable, and utterly eternal, and will never be effaced. Doesn't that give you cause to wonder? Have you ever wondered about death? What it is like to die? We've been reading Les Miserables in a book club I go along to. And I sometimes try and imagine, maybe I'm a bit of a morbid fellow, what it would be like to be beheaded by a guillotine. You know, it was, I guess, practiced because it was considered to be instantaneous, and people say it is instantaneous. But how do you know it's instantaneous? What might the experience be like of being severed from your body and sort of looking back at it somehow and being conscious for those few seconds? And then what happens? What happens then? Is it just darkness? Is it non-existence? What is death? Can it even be experienced? Or does it lie beyond human experience? And is death natural? Is it supposed to be? If so, why do we abhor it so much? Why does it hurt us and horrify us so much? Why is it such a problem in our world, in our lives, and in our consciousness, and in human history? Does death belong? Or is it, in fact, as the New Testament teaches, the final enemy? Have you ever wondered about death? Friends, at both the macro levels of the universe and the micro levels of DNA and subatomic particles, this world of existence is wondrously amazing, ridiculously contingent. We don't have to be here, but somehow we are here anyway. I think that's amazing, and I have to ask, what does that mean? This brings me to one other question. I don't know how much time we've got, but I'll just sort of keep rattling on until you look completely bored. Contingency. I mentioned before that each one of us here is a remarkable miracle, really, and it could have gone any other way, both in our personal history but in the whole history of the universe. Contingency. The word, a very philosophical word, refers to the possibility of things being otherwise, the possibility even of not being, the fact that we don't have to be and things don't have to be as they are, that they're not sort of absolutely predetermined and necessary. Anything that has either come into being or has the possibility of not being or going out of being is what we call a contingent reality. It's not a necessary reality, but a contingent reality. And that, if you think about it, everything that you know of and can ever experience, that seems to include everything. Everything that you can experience is a contingent reality. But does that mean that everything is a contingent reality? Is there possibly some reality, somewhere, somehow, that is not contingent, but in fact is necessary, must be, and cannot not be? Nothing, said King Lear and the philosophers before him, nothing can come from nothing. And so it seems that contingent reality must have its source somehow in a reality that must be. Otherwise, you keep going back for infinity. Somehow it seems that everything that is, that could possibly not be, must come from something that is and could not possibly not be. I think I got that right. And the philosophers have thought about that over the centuries and wondered, in fact, whether God might be that necessary being. So much so that he is fullness of being. He is that being by which all being is measured and qualified. And it's interesting that when the Lord appeared to Moses at the burning bush, he said, "I am who I am." Or as the Greeks sometimes translate it, "I am he who is." And the fathers of the church took that as an assertion from the lips of God himself, if one can speak that way, that he is ultimate being, true being, the ground of all being, the cause of all being, the being in all being, from whom all being derives, and without whom no being is. God is necessary being, fullness of being. Everything else depends for its being on him.